welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I have even been on here, and I'm going to explain why. My life was literally overtaken by my job. I was working 6-7 days a week, about anywhere from 60 to 80 hours every single week. And this was every week, no if, ands, or buts. It was someone called in, I was working. If nobody called in, I was still working because I was having to watch everybody and everything else because I had actually taken over the position that I had bosses for prior. Yeah, so I ended up taking over the kitchen of the hospital I was working at. I said was. And I was overworking myself. I was working myself to death. I wasn't having time for any of my extracurriculars. I wasn't having time to play games. I wasn't having time to play with my animals. I wasn't having time for anything. So last year, I know it's been about a year and a half since I've been on, really. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. She was giving a really, really good fight. She was doing actually very well on her chemo, on her radiation. She had very aggressive cancer, and she was actually winning the fight. It was kind of a surprise for everybody that she was actually winning and doing as good as she was. So around Thanksgiving, I guess, because I'm the black sheep of the family, I'm not always told things when they start happening. If I would have been, maybe the outcome would have been a little different. I don't know. So she went into Mercy Hospital here in Oklahoma City around Thanksgiving. I was not told until they were transferring her to another hospital. And she was in the ICU there for a few days. Then she was transferred into another long-term care facility. It was a full care facility. Do not know the name of it. But as far as I'm concerned, these two hospitals did a major disservice to my mother. They actually missed the reason that she was sick. And it wasn't the chemo. She had come down with pneumonia, but she was having stomach pain. They ignored the stomach issue for the time that she was in there. So then my dad called me one night while I was at work, said that they were taking my mother back to the ICU. This is the first time that I got a call when she was actually going in and everything else. My mother and I were talking about how we want a baby and all this stuff before Thanksgiving. And my husband and I were working on making it happen before she passed away. So I ended up going up there, making it before my dad did, getting to the hospital room with my mom. She was hooked up to a bunch of machines, barely breathing and everything else, not able to really do things on her own. I talked to her, I got her calmed down because she was getting quite antsy, trying to take out her tubes and everything like that. My dad got there, and they said, okay, well, she'll be here overnight. So we start heading home. I tell my mom I'll be back in the morning to check on you. So my husband and I start heading home, and we get a call from the hospital stating that we need to come back up. The surgeon needed to talk to us, and this is the beginning of one of the worst weeks of my life. So we go back up. There is actually a reason I am not wearing makeup. I'm afraid I might cry still, even though it's February and this happened in December. So we went back up there. Doctor started talking to us, talking to me, explained what was going on. My dad made it back. He re-explained it. My mother was coherent at this point, and I was getting her pain medication and everything else, making sure that she was taken care of. But the doctor told us that her colon was dead. Now, please remember, she was in the hospital from right after Thanksgiving until that point when she went to Integris. And so, told us her colon was dead. And it had been dead because colon death is not instant. It takes a long time. It's very, very painful. So she had been suffering in these other two hospitals. And no one paid attention to her. No one in these other two hospitals paid any attention to this woman. Did not listen to her at all. Did not listen to her. So, me and my dad had a discussion with my mother, and she decided, instead of going through with the surgery that may or may not save her life, that she was going to let herself go. And this was the day before my daughter's birthday. So I had my husband go and get my kids. And I called my little brother, had my little brother start heading. My dad, for some odd reason, had to head back to his house. And he came back. And when they left, we had already pulled out the tube and everything. Everybody was there and everything. When my dad left, my mother had a bowel movement, and it was just all blood. It was going down the side of the hospital bed. I was in there for that. I helped them get it cleaned up a bit before anyone else came, and we all got to spend a little bit of time. And so when my brother got there and everything, I was still taking care of her and everything, getting her water and everything like that, going, okay, she wants the tube pulled, she wants this done, she wants that done, because nobody else could say anything. So we did that. That's why I wasn't wearing makeup. So we did that, and my mom was getting her last words. And with everybody, it happened to be after midnight. So it was my daughter's birthday. She got to wish Jade a happy birthday. Who's my daughter. She told me I better have those babies. That's all she cared about, was getting grandkids even at the end. So, sat there. My dad was going to stay that night, so my dad stayed that night. I didn't leave until I don't think any of us left until about 2. My dad spent the night there. I came back in the morning, checked on her, went to work, got sent home because I was a little out of it. So I went back and sat with my mom. I sat with my mom every day, all day, until she passed. My dad came one more day, and then he went home and didn't come back because it was too hard. My little brother didn't come back because it was too hard. So I was massaging her hands and everything like that, making sure she was as comfortable as possible, because she decided she wanted to sleep the rest of her life. Not hurt, not be in pain. I sat there long enough to know her breathing cues for when her pain started going up, when she started hurting. So I'd go get the nurses or whoever and make sure she was comfortable. I kept her mouth moisturized, kept her lips moisturized, kept her cleaned up. Massaged her feet and her hands because they were swelling, and I didn't want her to be uncomfortable. And I only went home for a few hours every night while my cousin was there. So my cousin would sit there at night. I'd go home. I'd be there before she left in the morning. So I'd come back, do it all over again, not leave until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And finally, on the last night, I didn't even want to go home. Sitting there, this is funny. My mother loved Little House on the Prairie. So we turned on a Little House on the Prairie for her to watch a marathon. It was hilarious because at 9 o'clock, when the last episode went off, is when she passed. Watched her take her last breath, double checked to see if I could find any breathing, any pulse, or anything like that, because she'd stop periodically, stop breathing. And then she would be okay. And then this time I watched her and I knew that breath. Walked over, took her pulse. Everything had stopped. I walked out we had taken her to a hospice. And this did get into a bit of our baby money and everything that we've been putting back because we wanted to have the babies here before she passed away. Told her that she'd passed. And they're like, okay, let me double check. And they're like, okay. They asked me what time I wanted to call it. I'm like, she passed at 9 o'clock. And so did that. It was funny because I wasn't going to leave her body until the people came to pick her up. The coroners came, picked her up. So we were sitting in there still talking and everything else because I didn't want her to be alone until after the fact. And it was hilarious because all of a sudden the intercom started going off and they thought we were pressing the button. The button was on the other side of my mother, away from all of us. So none of us were pressing it. So they asked me if everything was okay, and I'm just like, oh, it's just my mom. She's pressing the intercom. She's letting you know that we're still in here. And you can hear the girl laughing. Apparently that made her day. And there had been a lot of death that day. There had been like 5 people that I watched leave this hospice house. But the hospice house did my mom real good. But the last thing she told me was to make sure that my husband and I get to have our baby this year. So we did that. And while I was in the hospital with my mom, I noticed my job was posted. The job I had been working. They posted it for 3 days while I was in the hospital with my dying mother. So we finished that. I went back to work, took care, fixed everything that had gone awry while I was off with my mom. I had received at least 30 to 40 phone calls a day while my mom was in the hospital of people not doing their jobs or people throwing tantrums or things going on that honestly I shouldn't have been dealing with. My assistant should have been dealing with, and he wasn't dealing with it, which caused a lot of turmoil in my kitchen. But during this time, my job had been posted on a website, so I was like, okay, my job's almost gone because the new president didn't like me of the company I was working for. Didn't like that I do like blue hair and stuff like that. Didn't like that. So I go back to work. The next week after my mom dies, I didn't take any time off. I set up her cremation and everything like that. Dealt with all the Christmas stuff and everything else that was going on at work and everything. Got it all taken care of. Jumped right back into my normal daily life of work. Okay, so January comes around. Still finding ways to make extra money to put back money for my husband and I to have a baby. And there's a bunch of rumors going around. I had 3 people plotting against me at my job. And apparently toxic people win at a job, not the non-toxic people that just are trying to do their job. So my birthday getting ready to have my birthday, my little brother decides, oh, we're going to have mom's funeral the day before your birthday. My mother was cremated. They could have done it at any time. So they decide the day before my actual birthday to have her funeral. I am not involved in any of it, even though I was there till the minute she passed. Did not know anything about it. Walk into this thing, and it is nothing like my mother would have wanted. I didn't even know her ashes were there because they had her shoved into a corner. None of her favorite colors were there. The only thing that was her favorite color was her urn. It was a wreck. I was like, I could have made her favorite foods. I could have done whatever you guys wanted. No problem. Made this exactly what she wanted. And I was just thrown to the side like I always am. Nobody really talked to me. I think there was like 3 people that talked to me besides my cousin the entire time I was there. And my dad didn't even show up until everybody was leaving. He was not ready, and they should have made sure he was ready most of all. Because he was the most important person in this, because it was his wife that died. It was his partner. And he wasn't ready. I don't think he still is ready. But sat there, did that, and then a few days later, like 2 days after my birthday, my job decides to lay me off. So they decided, oh, well, we're going to go a different direction. That's the only reason they went, because the president of the area that I was in had only talked to me 3 times. Less than 5 words. Did not know me, did not know my drive, did not know anything really about me. Besides, I didn't take vacations, and all I did was work. And my mother died. That's all he knew. So, in turn, we start going the way we were going. I start doing my Twitch channel. I've been on my Twitch more than this, so I decided to start this back up today. And I had to make sure I was emotionally ready. So I am back to raising money for our IVF. That way my mom gets her death wish, which was my husband and I having another child. Well, at least one child together. And that was her death wish. So now we're working on that. We've almost got the capital up. We just need a little bit more. So if anybody would like to help us raise that money, please do. We're thinking of going to Mexico or find a very affordable place here. As I said, I have most of the money up already. I'm just a little bit short. I would like to announce pregnancy near my mother's birthday, which is coming up in April. That way her wish actually comes true this year. So if you'd like to help me with the death wish, I've got a GoFundMe and a few other things up, as well as Cashapp if you guys would like to donate to help get that going. That's all I'm trying right now. I'm going to start posting more regularly, and of course I'm going to post our progress on here, as well as my TikTok, Twitch, and everything else. So please, if you want to help, please do. Like and subscribe, of course. And thank you for your time.